Hello, hello. Today we continue the Surviving the West series. Sorry this took so long, it's a me problem. But it is a bit of a long story, so you might want to start at the beginning. Enjoy. Gonna be honest with everyone, I'm having a tough time coming up with any kind of lesson to start you off. See, this, whatever it is, it's changed functions, for me anyway. I'm sure you find people out there still getting just about the same amount of it as you always have. The problem is, a lot of things I thought I knew, I'm learning just ain't so, to use an appropriate word selection. So what's the point in me telling you what to do? Why follow my dumbass advice versus the next guy? The only answer I can come up with is that while I'm slowly realizing I may not know shit, I can almost guarantee that the next guy is actively full of shit. And yeah, as you might have guessed, this philosophy is from the bottom of a bottle. But when in Rome, I guess. So, as far as how to survive the almost anything you might come in contact with, here is about the only piece of wisdom I can pry from the bottom of the barrel. Don't think you have it all figured out. This isn't to say don't learn. Learning about dark corners of your world is important, but you need to keep your thought processes plastic. Because the world doesn't throw the things you're ready for at you. Spend your whole life as a gun nut, probably never have a break-in, and that assault rifle isn't do any good in a house fire. Devote your time to healthy eating, keeping in shape, and staying safe. Figure out a way that's going to help you when you get laid off after having your first kid. Being prepared is comforting. Understanding how to work under pressure, that's what's important. Or something like that. It's just as likely you'll take this advice to heart and end up giving up on a skill that could save your life at the most unlikely moment. Which somehow is both the point and the rebuttal to what I'm trying to say. Gah, I swear to Christ, this was less obnoxious when you were trying to take a piece out of me. I grumbled with a half-ton of muscle and chitin hunched in the corner of the ceiling of James's surprisingly spacious cellar. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, why didn't I just let this thing scuttle off into the desert? Or why have I been spending a week trying to get to listen to a word I say? Well, let me give you a little rundown on Septum Ultimum Fomori, or as the less book focus used to call them, fringe riders. Their natural habitat are the spaces in between, the roads to every little pocket dimension, personal hell or cursed prison out there. Left undisturbed, they float, for lack of a better term, in swarms billions strong, feeding on the remains of thoughts and emotions of those passing through. And they're happy, as much as a metaphysical insect can be said to be happy anyway. Issues arise when one happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and gets thrown to the harshness of reality based on laws that cannot be bent. See, these little guys, they have a trick up their sleeve. An adaptation forged from billions of years of humans, the supernatural and everything in between, essentially cutting through their lawn. The harsh lines of our existence quickly tear the creature apart, who, upon arriving, look similar to any number of insects. But these little guys, they are fighters. Put one near something it can handle, and it will tear it apart, then fuse the parts with its own dissolving form. It can spend decades doing this, slowly adding more and more to itself, anchoring its form in this reality and growing in size, intellect, and ability. Each one ends up being its own horrifying snowflake. But if you know what to look for, you can pick them out at a distance. That being said, for all their horror movie shock value, they don't prey on people. And once they've amassed enough flesh, claws, teeth, and bone to defend themselves from whatever is nearby, they keep to themselves, easily surviving off the emotional spore of damn near anything. For my purposes, they have two traits I desperately need. There isn't an entity I can name they can't put hands on. Doesn't mean they can put a claw through a steel plate, but if it can be touched, they can touch it. They are damn smart. Somewhere between a high-functioning dolphin and a low-functioning toddler. And if a few people I knew are to be believed, some of them can make me look a bit dim. I keep reminding myself of these facts as I feel my blood boil. The rider stopped trying to attack me or James's wife, but that's about the best way my progress can be framed.
Take a break, Andrew,
Kara says. Having something that can man, woman, snake, handle the rider, not to mention can't be poisoned, has been a godsend. The ceiling is 15 feet easily. Still, Kara sits slouched in coils of flesh-colored scales. She could just grab the rider, but it's not going to do me any good having to know she's the boss, regardless of how true that may be. Strangely, Kara actually makes me feel more comfortable in this redneck nightmare. Sitting in a likely paranormally large basement, talking with something that should be relegated to the disreputable cryptid handbooks about taming something the writers of those books couldn't imagine, makes it feel like old times. In case you're wondering, here's the quick and dirty on my favorite old West gal. Yes, James is aware of what she is. No, he doesn't have some really strange kink. As you should remember, Kara is a siren, and hers isn't some dime store illusion. Nope, what makes her her also makes it so anyone that could consider themselves a human being without some borderline impossible surgery, such as yours truly, will always see, hear, smell, feel, and, not to be adult about things, but taste her as their ideal mate. But as far as I can tell, they have a healthier relationship than most people I've known. So, more power to them. As far as her though, solid gal. Works as a bouncer for those of James's clientele who can leap tall buildings and eat shotgun shells. Damn fine at stopping that from happening though. Silver tongue with things from either side of the paranormal divide. Yeah, I should, but the only other lead James has found is for a planeswalker sighting. And best case scenario there, yay, they've found a herd of really big, really dumb things that can kick kinda hard, I say, shaking my head. I flip off the rider and pull up a stool beside Kara. The basement is cool, but the humidity has me sweating, not to mention smelling like a gym sock.
That's a little judgmental. Planeswalkers are nice, and they aren't that dumb. They can talk.
Kara goads me. So can a lot of people. Doesn't make them smart. They also look like giant walking pairs of pants. If I go down in history for anything I do here, I'm not doing it at the head of an army of fucking trousers. I'm angry, but I'm laughing.
Fair enough,
Kara says.
How's that new pistol working out?
She asks as I unwrap a cloth bundle of bread and cheese, starting my lunch. After the catastrophic failure of my last firearms, I learned something. No, not how quality control didn't mean a damn thing until the mid-1980s, but just how expensive firearms, good firearms anyway, are. Draining myself of the last of my funds, I managed to find a pepper box pistol with a box of 100 rounds. Cumbersome doesn't even begin to describe it, but it's also basically one massive piece of iron. .22 caliber isn't exactly a cannonball, but next time a gun does a grenade impression in my hand, I doubt I'll be lucky enough to have James right there. So something that isn't likely to do that is my first priority. Makes me feel like a caveman. But seeing as my hands look like a pair of torn gloves, despite James' best efforts, I'll take it. I look down, still not used to the pock marks, overlapping scars, and lack of last knuckle on my pinky. Functionally, I'm a lot better than expected, but by no means did I walk out unscathed.
Looks fine to me,
Kara says, looking at her own hand. Thick brownish scales and dark black nails turn them into flesh-colored claws. I don't really know how to reply to that one without sounding like an asshole. I joke. I've got an idea about our friend hunched up in the corner there. Mind if I run it by you? She nods, opening her own lunch. Despite what you'd think, nothing strange, just the same monotonous, bland crap that everyone has eaten. Well, I'm thinking, maybe I need some one-on-one time with him. I flick a small insect for my bread, looking at Kara's reaction.
Not too sure it not thinking you're a tough guy is the issue,
she says, not so dismissal as a challenge. Not that, no. Something different here is how I'm seeing things. I found myself captured by a bunch of things I knew nothing about. I'm probably not going to feel too comfortable, especially when I watch these crazy bastards tear each other apart and try to force feed me the pieces. Let this go on for God knows how long, and just when I get used to this hell, another one of these things and something a hell of a lot scarier comes and tears just about everyone to shreds. I'm thinking Bill up there might just be assuming we are the biggest, meanest things around, and he was just a prize. I don't know, I'm half versed on these things at best, but maybe if I can show Bill that I'm a new friend instead of a new owner, we can get a better reaction. I shrug and see Kara mull over the information.
I've heard worse plans. What do we do if it decides to take off your arm and make a run for it, though?
She asks. Let me bleed out? If I can't manage to wrangle a spider, Kurt's better off on his own. My morbid joke, or maybe the tone, gives Kara pause. I'm kidding. If I wanted to opt out, I wouldn't pick slow death by spider. The first 2 nights, things were actually worse. Kara backing me up at least kept Bill in line physically. But her tending her own business upstairs, Bill decided scrambling for the locked, magically and with mundane methods, door at every opportunity was his best bet for freedom. Could be worse. If Bill really wanted to, I'm sure he could do some damage, but I get a lack of confidence, a skittishness from the creature. It wants nothing more than to get out and go back to doing what it does. Too scared to trust, too scared to fight. Somehow, I empathize. After the first day, though, we were both sleepless and tired. I'm bruised with a dozen small cuts from trying to unwedge Bill from various crevices and corners it somehow wedged its massive frame into. The third night, I'm sitting by a dim lantern, carving something James assured me was a sausage into bite-sized pieces with my hunting knife. Bill hangs from the ceiling on the edge of the lamplight. Bill! William! Buddy! Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here. Seriously, you are looming above me like death itself, and I'm not even getting the urge to look up. This week doesn't go well, you can walk out the door. Who knows, maybe you're the spider equivalent of an accountant. Not everyone's made to be a soldier. And while we're on the topic of things not meant for the task they've been given, I say, tossing the sausage up a bit, I slash it with the knife. There's an almost plastic-sounding crack noise. I catch the sausage. Yep, this thing is so hard it splinters if it's cut quickly enough. I shake my head and begin to absently roll the knife, tossing it from hand to hand, spinning it on its balance point, basically treating it like a fidget spinner that could kill a man. I fall into patterns, flipping and stalling the knife, the bright blade catching the lantern light. My mind latches onto this activity in the midst of the constant boredom of the past. I'm in the zone, away from the world. Maybe it's been a while since I mentioned that I used to be a knife collector. Seems like 2 lifetimes ago now. Back then, the thought I'd ever actually use one in the living was laughable, but my mind wanders back to those times. Simple job, simple relations, simple hobbies, simple pleasures. Like wasting $200 on a World War II combat knife that will certainly never see combat again. I'm deep in this torpor of memory when the most god-awful noise jars me back to reality. A clicking, scraping sound, somewhere between a purr and a medieval duel. The knife drops from my hand, but it never reaches the ground. I turn to my right. Bill has crept up and lowered himself from the ceiling, its equine and arachnid face inches from my own. He is transfixed by the knife, using one long, thin front leg to balance the knife, its steel point matching that of the chitin-encased appendage. And that is when I made my first real headway. See, turns out Bill and I have something in common. Of course, it's none of my training that helped me break a metaphysical beast, but my cash sink hobby from my civilian days. It wasn't an E.T. Reese's Pieces moment, where suddenly we became best friends, but the thing had quite an interest in blades, and was at least willing to be within arm's reach if I had one to offer. It was early afternoon on a Saturday. I'm holding a dark metal sickle behind me in my right hand. Anyone just coming in, not in the know of course, would assume it was a battle between man and beast. Once hearing me talk though, probably not. Bill's hunched down, trying to circle around me. Not to cover me in web, then drain my corpse, mind you. Bill seems perfectly content on whatever emotions I'm throwing out there. But get at the sickle, I'm keeping away from him. Okay, Bill. We need to start having an exchange here, I say as Bill seemingly blinks from in front of me, almost to my right flank. I turn him back up, waving a finger. I need a ride, and you need a friend. Bill bull rushes me. The impact knocks the wind out of me, slamming me into a shelf of beer kegs, but I stay on my feet. Old William may not want to kill me, but his way of making a stern point leaves something to be desired. Really? That's how we're gonna do things? I say, trying to distract him with a loud tone and some telegraphing body movements. Next time he does that jump that turns him into a black and white blur, I drop the sickle, feigning frustration. I have the briefest moments as he dips down, intending to snatch the blade and crawl to some shadowy corner to prod and chew the thing. Attention focused on the tree like an absent-minded house pet, I take my chance. I leap, landing, standing off balance on the top of the paranormal arachnid. There's a moment of stillness. I actually think Bill is going to let this go on without an issue. Then, I'm clinging to sharp jags of chitin as it jumps, flips, and slams itself against any surface, trying to dislodge me. It'd take one quick jump if he wanted to smear me against the ceiling, but he tries everything but. He wants me off, but I get the distinct feeling he doesn't want to kill me to do it. Seeing how dead wrong I've been lately, though, I'm ready to drop off Bill the second I think I'm going to join the Red Mist Society. Minutes go by. Bucking turns to running from the walls to ceiling. This turns into a petulant run. Instant stops, only capable by insects, almost sending me tumbling. But this as well turns into a canter, which turns to Bill standing, air venting out of the cracks at his exoskeleton. Look up how spiders breathe. Interesting stuff. Turning his hellhorse face to me, multiple eyes blinking in annoyance. I'm about to heap praise on him. Just to clarify, he doesn't understand me, but I dare any one of you to say you've never held a conversation with an animal. As I suddenly hear a sound that sends me off his back and scrambling through the leather backpack containing my kit. It's been a while since I've heard a sound produced by an electronic, let alone the clear tone coming from my Comdex device that indicates a message. Bill's looking around the room for some kind of threat, but I'm suddenly miles away from my minor victory, reading the subject line from a combination voice communication and info packet. The sender was Elaine McNabb, one of the agents that should have arrived in an orderly fashion alongside myself. The absolute best occultist I have ever met. If this woman can't find a spell, she'll make one. Never came across a curse, cult, or contraption she couldn't take out or make sing, depending on her fancy. The information package was a location dump, a town about half a day's travel from where I was. Judas's Waller. The voice recording chills me to the bone. The quality is garbled and filled with static and artifacts, but it is most certainly Elaine.
I don't know if this message is going to get to you. I've been trying for months now. If you haven't figured out what's going on yet, it's bad, Drew. Worse than we thought. We never should have broken that barrier. I'm being followed. I don't know who it is, but they know everything about us. I haven't been able to shake them for days now. And I've been seeing him in this town. I've went to ground. I'm hoping this gets to you, or anyone else who made it. Find me. We need to get together. Find the others. This is bigger than any of us, Drew. You know how much this is going to kill me to say, but save me.
I stare at the harsh green of the reinforced screen, letting the message loop over and over again. With all the half steps and distractions as of late, this hits harder than I would have thought. This direct link to my old life. My life, I mean. There was almost some sense of comfort and feeling like I was just treading water. Sure, what I'm dealing with is dangerous and I'm unprepared, but at the end of the day, regardless of how bad things turn out for me, none of this Roy Rogers bullshit is literally universe ending. But this could be the first step that leads me right back to having the fate of everything shared only between myself and a handful of other people. I'll explain the situation with as little censorship as possible to James and Kara. They don't seem overjoyed about having to make sure Bill doesn't do anything horrible, but I don't trust him as a beast of burden yet. Playing nice in a basement is one thing, not throwing me down a hill when he realizes he can just run is another. I like to go into a situation with a few people behind me, optimally James, Kara, and maybe Kurt. But unfortunately, real life isn't some kind of RPG, holding your hand and giving you what you need when you need it. People have lives, limited funds, limited patience, for that matter. So I start my half day of travel with some food, some ammunition, and a bottle of whiskey. I wish I could say more has been done with less, but if anyone has saved the universe with a beer, a cracker, and a slingshot, I haven't heard of it. The sun is setting as I come upon 4 men standing around a large laden cart, one wheel stuck at a terrible angle in a deep rut on the road. The men shift nervously, and a man about 50 has a long-barreled shotgun cocked and pointed towards the ground. He's a portly sort, in contrast to the other 3 younger men, all whip-thin and corded with miner's muscle. "Howdy, stranger," the man says. Every time that word makes my fucking soul cringe. "No chance helping some folks out. Bringing back a silver haul, so we got no problems paying you." I'm suspicious, but as I look around, I start to piece together a story, and it syncs up well enough with what the older man, the father of this clan I assume, and later confirmed, tells me. The man walks with an arthritic limp that would be comical if someone was enough of an insensitive asshole, that is. And one of the son's hands are haphazardly bandaged. Judging by the smell of almonds and feces coming from it, the kid is in dire need of a doctor with a sharp saw and a large bottle of ether. With 2 guys, moving the wagon isn't going to be much of a possibility. Even with 3, I'm not sure it's a guarantee we can do this and keep the wagon in a usable state. But I'm willing to give it a shot, for selfish reasons, of course. Well, how about this, guys? You keep your silver, and instead, 2 of you come with me down to Judas's Waller. Got a sister down there whose husband's idea of a stern conversation involves blood on the floor. Gonna go set the man straight, and I could use a couple men backing me up in case he's got a couple of his pig fucker friends around. Not expecting you to pull a trigger on anyone or take a bullet, but you stand there and look scary and you can save yourself $50. I lie. I'd feel worse, but if I fail, the consequences will be felt through time. No pressure, right? The family has a conversation without saying a word. With nothing more than a few shrugs and nods, they come to a decision. "Sounds about fair to me. Lyle Calhoun is my name. The 2 able-bodied boys are Kyle and Steve, and my boy with the busted hand is Miles," the father says. I mull over whether Howdy or when he named his kids bothers me more. After about an hour or so of rocking, levering, and shoving the wagon, the wheel gives a crunching noise that is thankfully hard-packed dirt and not the hung-carved wheels. Within half an hour, Lyle and Miles are headed back the way I came, and I'm making small talk with Steve and Kyle, as I lead them to what is likely going to be a life-or-death struggle with someone, or if we're really unlucky, something. The sun has been down a few hours as the 3 of us reach the city limit sign. Immediately as I look at the town, I get a sense of foreboding, menace, and isolation. I'm not seeing a single light in any of the handful of homes and businesses. Not a drunk or horse wandering the streets. No gunfire or preachers giving sermons. Only a trio of literal tumbleweeds swirling around aimlessly in the drafts coming up from the litter-strewn alleys between buildings.
"This ain't right,"
Steve says. He's about 6 foot, ginger in a pair of thick denim overalls and long johns. Massive black miner's boots that would have almost made the man look intimidating if it wasn't for the constant "what's going on" look on his face. "Yeah, something's wrong here," Kyle replies. He's a shorter, sturdier, potato-shaped man with cropped red hair and wild facial hair that could be called a beard with the application of a pair of shears and a gallon of shampoo. You guys want to leave? I'm not holding it against you. I wasn't telling you the full truth walking into this, and now I think things just got worse. My tone is dry. Leading these guys into a bad situation is one thing, but I was expecting one possible supernatural enemy, not something that I'm guessing put an entire town against the wall.
We're Irish, squarehead. We know when we're being lied to, when we owe a debt, and when there's a proper dust-up brewing. All three of those are on the table. We ain't going anywhere,
Kyle says. He pulls out an oversized knuckle duster. As his brother produces a pistol I hope is better crafted than the last one I used. The three of us walk in the thoroughfare, another handful of tumbleweeds crossing the street like dim-witted schoolchildren. I smell it, and by the looks on their faces, so do Kyle and Steve. Old blood, and the sundry smells of death and struggle. The streets are in no way strewn with corpses and entrails, but that makes things worse. Not only did something tear through this place, but it must have cleaned up. I'm waiting for the other foot to drop, scanning windows and doorways, listening for the sound of shuffling feet or scuttling claws. But nothing comes.
Elaine!
I scream. Not the most subtle of plans, but pretty much the only option that makes sense. Anything waiting for me is already watching anyway. Brothers fan out, checking doors and window latches. They're smart enough to stay within viewing range, which gives me a bit more hope if things go south. I'm at a general store, and as I turn the knob of the heavy oak door, I'm not met with any resistance. I turn to the brothers, meaning to call them over, and I see the strangest thing. Kyle is walking, a trio of tumbleweeds slowly rolling past. Their paths collide. Now, what you'd expect to happen is for Kyle to send the plant flying off to the side. What actually happens is Kyle trips, ass over tea kettle, as if he walked into something with some serious weight behind it. Something weighing about the same as a medium dog, but tumbleweed-sized. "Run!" I scream, stepping inside the store. Steve looks to me, then to his brother. American goddamn hyena. Nasty little beast, built like a cross between a hyena and a cinder block, with a coat of long, jagged, overlapping, almost porcupine-like quills. They're silent as death, and at a distance, or in the dead of night, look like nothing more than that staple of the Old West, the humble tumbleweed. The three creatures pounce on Kyle. The sharp cracks as the canines pounce tell me their weight alone broke some bones. I can't make out exactly what's happening in the gloom of night, but I see spraying blood, and Kyle's screams fill in the gaps. Steve looks as if he's going to charge right in. If he does, I'm closing the door. These things are nasty, and smarter than any dog has a right to be. I look around and see more of the hyenas, rolling almost casually in from the alleys and behind the buildings. Steve finds his wits and sprints towards me. In seconds, I'm slamming the heavy door shut and scrambling to light a couple of wall lanterns. I'd be more concerned about attracting attention, but these things can smell prey from a mile off. They know we are here. I don't have to explain to Steve what these things are. Dirt common myth around these parts. Convincing him they were real somehow took a minute or so. Steve and I start to move furniture against the doors, using tables to cover the windows. We hear sounds of crackling wood soon after. Vicious beasts trying to force their way in. But that isn't the only thing that sets our blood running cold. As we take a moment to look at the inside of the building in the dim lamplight, we realize that inside can't be much safer than out. Hanging from the ceiling by thin, dull metal wires are half a dozen people in various states of abuse. All dead, most missing limbs, all having looks of pain and fear permanently stamped onto their pale, drooping faces. This isn't the work of the hyenas.
What in the hell did you get me into?
Steve says. Anger is a lot easier on the mind than fear. I wasn't expecting this. I'm going to do everything I can to get you out of here safely. Steve, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used you or your brother like this. I apologize.
Drew?
I hear from a set of stairs leading to a second floor. For a moment, I see Elaine, but she takes off running.
That your sister?
Steve asks. I'm running before I can reply. my less than consenting companion right on my heels. I'm greeted with a long, thin hallway. If I don't miss my guess, this was both a business and a residence. All the doors are closed, and I see Elaine nowhere. I start to rattle the doors at random. I'm not averse to breaking them right the hell down, but I'd rather not stumble into a room full of danger loudly announcing myself if I can avoid it.
Drew?
I realize we walk into a trap the moment I hear Elaine's voice coming from behind us. I turn around, and instead of seeing Elaine, or whatever is doing its best impression of her, I see Steve grasping at his neck and rising slowly off the floor. He raises a foot from the dusty planks of the hallway and blood begins to pour from his neck. I draw the pepperbox pistol and fire 2 rounds into the ceiling. Plaster falls, and for a moment the muzzle flash illuminates something up there. Tall, human-shaped, and standing upside down on the ceiling, working a thick garrote, causing it to tighten further. The thing snickers like a child of the devil, and with a crunching noise, Steve falls to the ground. His head falls in a spray of gore, a half a second later. Effortlessly, the creature flips to the ground. It's about my height, my build. I can't make out its features, but I figure I have a puncher's chance if I'm within arm's reach. I try to grapple it, but before I can put a finger on the thing, it jumps over me from a casual standing position. It's running down the hallway, easily avoiding 2 more wild shots of mine. I try to keep up with it as it opens a door, and with an almost horizontal leap shatters out the thick yellowed glass window. It grabs the roof of the neighboring building easily 10 feet away and flips itself into a casual stand. I swear I can hear it laugh as it turns, sprinting to the next rooftop. I look down the street, intending to take a more practical route to follow this thing, but the American hyena are roving in packs of half a dozen strong. The image of a handful of tumbleweeds bumping into each other, milling about, would be absurd, even comical, if I didn't know the danger packed into those strange little packages. Son of a bitch, I say, backing up to the doorway. Whatever I'm chasing may have been able to make this jump no problem, but I'm gonna need a good running start. I slam my knife into the roof, dragging myself up, sending cedar shingles raining onto the packs of hyena below. I can see the cocky bastard at the end of the roof. This thing is playing with me, enjoying this. I run toward it, and it puts its arms out to its sides, falling backward. I spy the wire tied around its feet and make a plan as I hear the glass below it shattering. The roof is cheap, and I'm a big guy. I bank on the woodworking being as well done as the metalworking in the Old West, and I'm not disappointed. I pick a spot between 2 beams and I jump, the shingles and thin wood sheets giving way, sending me into a brutal 8-foot fall that leaves my left ankle feeling as if it had been hit with a hammer. It also leaves me in front of whatever spring-heeled prick I'm tangling with about half a second to decide what to do. When in doubt, keep it simple, stupid. I throw a right cross that lands square. The figure stumbles back. He felt it, but he's not too worried. As the moonlight pours in from the hole in the ceiling, I finally get a good look at what I've been chasing. It's a man in his mid-30s, about 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's fit with a short beard and a nose that's been broken about as many times as it's been blown. He wears a wide-brimmed cap, almost pastoral, and a long black duster. I'm looking at myself. Of course, I'm not actually looking at myself, but something that's using my face. Doppelganger, mimic, exactly what isn't really important. There is never a situation in which something mimics someone that is going to end well for the person being copied. I see the flaws, though. My eyes are too wild, my cheeks too sunken, my limbs just a bit too long. This was hasty. This thing is trying to get in my head. If you've touched Elaine, I'm gonna skin you and make you grow it back until you die of starvation. I say, my knife held low, knees bent, as I walk forward.
Oh, such threats from the little bird caught in an attic,
It says in a thin, insane voice that's nothing like mine.
The things you don't know, little bird. The many, many things. I like your face, though. Maybe I'll keep it for a while. Give you a legacy of blood and hatred.
I'm too busy trying to sift through the meandering rant to notice the copy leap at me, arms outstretched, thick barbed garrote strung between its hands. My knife comes into play, quick, instinctual. But for every slash or thrust, this thing springs itself from walls, ceilings, throws itself almost horizontal. It wields its body like a machine. It's fast. Too fast for me to catch, I begin to realize. When it comes to things that are faster than should be possible, you need to ask yourself, what's your intent? To get away or to get your hands on the bastard? You know my answer to that. I feel a constricting, sharp pain in my forearm as the thing runs from one of the narrow halls of the hallway to the next. Instinct tells me to move with him. Training tells me not to. I grit my teeth and pull, blood dripping from the torn leather of my coat. It catches this thing off guard. It stumbles, and I make the best out of the opportunity. I grab a fistful of coat and shirt with my free hand and slam my forehead into the thing's nose over and over. It loosens the garrote, trying to disengage. It's strong, but no match for yours truly. As long as we are at an intimate distance, I'm doing just fine.
Aren't you even curious where she is, Drew?
It says through a mangled version of my face. It distracts me enough that he slips a knee into my stomach. My grip loosens. He steps backward toward the window. Its face is mangled, but it doesn't seem to care much, spitting its vitriol through cracked and missing teeth.
But that's your problem, isn't it, Drew? Always focused on what's right in front of you, like a good soldier. Like right now, you want to rip my head off so bad you've forgotten all about the hyena.
He wasn't wrong. I fall forward, slamming to the ground on my stomach, the wind knocked out of me. I hear the doppelganger cackle. Not taking the initiative to finish me, but enjoying the show. My coat gets torn to shreds as I roll myself over, the brittle bony barbs covering the canine, shattering, driving themselves into my flesh as I put my blade between my neck and its snapping jaws. Foul, thick saliva sprays across my face, and a high-pitched whining bark leaves my ears ringing. Not bad enough I can't hear this thing wearing my face laughing to itself, though. I have no leverage to use the blade effectively. I inch my hand towards the pepperbox pistol. 2 rounds loaded. Then it's a process of involving a screwdriver and a lot of patience to reload. By millimeters, my blade is pushed back, the squat, violent canine digging its claws into the floor for leverage. I can feel the tip of its long, pointed tongue graze my eyeball as my hand wraps around the broom handle grip of the pistol. 2 rounds sends it scrambling backwards, its back legs useless. I send it on its way with a blow to the top of its skull. The doppelganger is sitting at the edge of the window, kicking its feet, almost bored. It's let its features drip and run like wax. I'm now looking at a beaten, Picasso-like version of myself. I stalk toward it. I've walked through worse than the sprained ankle and a few dozen gouges I'm sporting. Hell, I've fought through worse than the last week. If this thing thinks it's going to win this war of attrition, I've got another point of view I'm more than willing to share.
That's poison, by the way.
I hear, before I understand why the deformed clone said it. I'm on one knee. I'm leaning against the wall for support. The world begins to spin. It's all I can do to stay conscious. The garrote. He wasn't trying to take my arm. He was getting poison into me. He hops down from the window and walks over with the casual malice of a long-time executioner.
Oh, Drew, caught in the middle of all this. Who am I? What am I?
The doppelganger puts his face next to mine. There's a harsh chemical smell about it, like rubbing alcohol and old menthol.
Maybe I was sent from that happy little carnival. Or maybe those world-devouring creatures you're running from sent me. Or maybe, just maybe, there is a small chance that I'm just the shitty parts of you. All that piss and vinegar you put out in the world, aimed in a different direction and let loose.
He gives me a patronizing slap.
I'm supposed to make sure you go down hard, but I just can't resist watching you flail around trying to figure things out some more. You are just a sad little Boy Scout, Drew. Even if you knew exactly what you got yourself into, you'd have no idea what to do about it. I want to be around when you figure that out yourself.
He winks with a dripping, malformed eye, stands and lays me flat with a kick that would have been at home on a professional soccer field. I'm fading in and out of consciousness, pulling myself into a sitting position as the doppelganger crouches in front of the window.
Now, those little doggies down there, they might not have quite the same sense of dramatic timing I do, though. Have fun!
It says, leaping out of the shattered window. I can hear paws scrambling up the stairs, barbed spikes scraping the walls, high-pitched yips echoing through the thin walls. I don't waste time. That kick that rattled my skull didn't cave it in. I still have my wits somewhat about me. I feel around my coat for the tiny screwdriver. My vision doubles, then triples. I close my eyes, feeling the large flathead screw on the front of the pistol. The sounds are closer now. I can make out the sounds of dogs fighting for position, to be the first to get the choicest cuts of their prey. I fumble with the tiny shells, feeling the rimfire nubs and lining them up with the indents in the chambers. I lose consciousness for a moment. The gun drops. 4 shells remain in their chambers. I slow down, carefully finding 4 more. I briefly see a head round the corner, a thin-looking beast with red eyes. Something I could probably take out with a knife and some grit if luck was on my side. This runt is grabbed by the neck and tossed tumbling down the stairs by what has to be the leader of this pack. A pony-sized thing that appears to grin as it rounds the corner. The chamber sticks the first time I try to close the gun. On the second, I hear the click of the hinge locking. I start to tighten the screw, keeping my hands low, my movements invisible. The alpha is about 10 feet from me now, hunched low, ready to pounce. 2 bullets make the distance long before the hyena does. At 10 feet, I could remove a splinter with an Uzi. Both of its eyes explode into caverns of gore. 3 more hyena, 6 more bullets, then silence. The mixed smell of blood, both human and animal, feces and God knows what else, is strong enough to stave off passing out. I take a few deep, steadying inhales, trying to think of what to do next, how to extract myself from this beyond foobar situation. A footstep, then another, cautious, loping, breathing that sounds like a bellows. A deep growl that seems to shake the walls on a wild, feral reek that overpowers the abattoir this building has become. What I saw before wasn't a leader, an alpha, whatever you want to call it. No, I forgot these things are smart. They don't send their best out first. They send in the fodder. They may not be going to college, but they know what a gunshot is. This thing is the size of a bear. Barely fitting in the hallway. I have nowhere to run. Out the window is just a 15-foot drop into the rest of the pack, and I doubt I could find a point on this thing I could put a .22 round that would do any damage. The knife feels puny, worse when I realize I can't stand without bracing myself against the wall. This is how it ends, I think. No blaze of glory, just a man woefully unprepared for his environment. I won't butcher the word I heard by trying to say it here, but I will try to describe it. It had a power, something that didn't remind me of petty magic I'd encountered in my life, but a connection to a deep force of creation that was well over the pay grade of someone like myself. The hyena gives me a look. It says, "You were really, really lucky," as it makes a ponderous turn, lumbering down the stairs. Footsteps, human this time, slow and steady, coming up the stairs. Light precedes the man making the noise. Bright, strong torchlight. I'm a big guy. This dude, he's a meat mountain of comic book-like proportions. He has a head of height on me, with forearms that could be thicker than my calves. His skin is deep brown, Native American, judging by his features. His clothing, though, eclectic doesn't do it justice. I see suit pants and jacket combined with a handful of various trinkets from just about every cult and religion that has a legitimate foot in the paranormal. Shining patent leather shoes contrasted with aggressive black riding gloves. His shirt seems to demand attention, pure white and what passes for high fashion in the 1890s. The man has short-cropped hair and half a dozen hoops of various sizes in each ear. He doesn't look like a shaman so much as a man of the world that wouldn't have to spin a tall tale to keep an audience enthralled. He looks me up and down, seeming to appraise me at a glance.
Good. Looks like you will come out of the other end of that poison,
he says, his voice cultured. South African, maybe. Who are you? I croak out, trying to stand without support and failing.
If there ever comes a time you need to know who I am, it will be a conversation that takes place over an evening. Now is not that time. What is important is not who I am, but why I am here. I am here, Andrew, because you have strayed from your path. I don't mean the universe is against you. I'm not talking about the temporal blasphemy you and yours committed. I'm talking about you, Andrew. Personally. You are no good to the world of light, the world of shadow, or any other damn thing if you consistently refuse to follow the path set out for you. And you are seeing it. You dodge death by inches. You fester, you stagnate, your luck being burned through, because you are too prideful to understand your place. You are blinded by perspective, Andrew. Anyone looking from the outside of your situation could pick out the individual moments when you went against your better judgment. I am not here to walk this path for you, Andrew. I have my own. But my path will be a lot easier to travel should you find yours.
There's a dull thud on the splintered floorboards as if to punctuate his speech.
You'll find this better than the toys and tricks you've been using. It'll never match a weapon that is truly yours, but it's more aid than I should be rendering, soldier.
I see what the man dropped. About 2 feet long, leather-wrapped handle and a pointed, jagged head made of some type of translucent gray stone. Call it a mace, cudgel, war club. This thing is more than just a weapon. It radiates power, almost seems to shine in the dust-muted moonlight. The man is walking away as my vision fades, and I sink to the ground. The last words I hear are,
I'm expecting that back at some point. Hello. Again, very sorry this took so long, but it was certainly worth the wait, wasn't it? Heartfelt thanks to Clock Strikes 3 for playing Kara, the land siren, Dodge the Grave, who is voicing Elaine, and Maskino, who played poor Steve. Oh, Steven, you were very brave. Thank you for listening, and you can handle another horror story, right?